So today we're going to be sharing an overview of the work of BioPhorum's Product Carbon Footprint Working Group, who are developing a harmonized approach to the calculation of the product carbon footprint of supplies into the biomanufacturing process. I'm Becky Tushingham. I'm Senior Global Change Facilitator at BioPhorum, and I facilitate the PCF Working Group. I'm joined today by Robert Barrentine, LCA and Sustainability Programme Manager from Saint-Gobain Life Sciences. And Robert is going to walk us through the detail of BioPhorum's PCF framework. This video is going to provide you with an understanding of the intention of the framework, knowledge of the key stakeholders, and an understanding of the stakeholder landscape and how this work fits into that bigger picture. So I'll start us off with a quick introduction to BioPhorum for anyone who's not aware. So BioPhorum is a collaborative organisation that brings together members from the global biopharma and device industries. And our mission is to create an environment where companies can connect, collaborate and accelerate progress for the benefit of all. BioPhorum is driven by its members to ensure that discussions reflect real industry challenges in a sales-free technical environment. So it provides a trusted space for companies to share information and collaborate openly, which in turn helps member companies to reduce costs, lower waste and improve productivity, as well as enhancing environmental performance across the value chain. It's a space for members to debate, to share and to learn together to build the best solutions for industry-wide challenges. BioPhorum runs multiple forums, which you can see illustrated here in the top right of the slide, and which you can think of as focus groups on topics including supply resilience, technology strategy, regulatory compliance, and of course, sustainability. Focusing on the biomanufacturing process then, when we think about reducing the environmental impact of the health sector, the growing biologics segment of the pharmaceutical industry is critical. BioPhorum members are focused on reducing the environmental impact of the end-to-end biomanufacturing process. They're thinking about incoming materials, the manufacturing process itself, and how drugs reach patients. And key to reducing the industry's environmental impact is the need for better data to direct improvement effort. So to identify hotspots and understand the full impact of the process across the value chain. We know that the consumables and ingredients used in biologics can be highly complex, and the industry needs a consistent way of assessing the environmental impact of those supplies. BioPhorum Sustainability members identified a gap in existing guidelines and methodologies relating to the calculation of product carbon footprint for suppliers. To address this, they formed a collaborative working group, which includes biopharma suppliers, CDMOs and licence holders, which we're calling the PCF working group, to develop an industry-level framework. This framework is still in development and the team hope to publish it in the first part of next year. So I'm now going to pass to Robert to give you an overview of the framework.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. So maybe the best place to get started is in the definition of what is a product carbon footprint. So a PCF is the total greenhouse gas emissions attributable to a product for a defined life cycle boundary and functional unit. This follows the ISO 14067 standard and is well adopted across many industries. When we talk about PCF, we again can consider it for, let's say, the cradle-to-gate or the cradle-to-grave boundaries. And when we talk about cradle-to-gate, that's really going from the birth of the product, the cradle, which could be the extraction of raw materials through to the gate, which is the factory gate. And when we talk about cradle-to-grave, we extend that gate to also include downstream transportation, the use phase, and the end of life. Some key elements of a product carbon footprint is it's typically reported as the kilograms of CO2 equivalent per functional unit. In a very simple terms, this could be on a per mass basis, so 1 kilogram of product, or by part or piece. And this product carbon footprint includes all of the scopings of the carbon accounting. So that's the direct emissions, which are considered scope 1, indirect energy-related emissions from scope 2, and then all relevant upstream and downstream emissions within these boundaries, which is scope 3. So what value does developing a framework around product carbon footprint bring? If we zoom out a little bit and look at a drug manufacturer and they do their own carbon accounting, what has typically been found is that upwards of 80 to 95% of their footprint is coming from the Scope 3 category, and specifically from purchased goods and materials. So really, it's very important that we get these quantifications of carbon footprint as accurate as possible and consistent. So by developing a framework, we can improve that accuracy, which should lead to better accounting for these companies, and supports downstream stakeholders with that information. To give a little bit more perspective on how this could work, we talk about the product carbon footprint framework in BioPhorum as being for consumables and single-use technologies, and really to redefine that problem. Today, there's a lack of that primary industry data, or the data is often low quality and requires or is relying on spin-based assumptions. It's a very complex supply chain, as Becky mentioned, and there's many types of materials that are used in biomanufacturing. The solution that we're coming forward with is brought forward by the tier 1 suppliers within BioPhorum, and also an agreement of the license holders and CDMOs to develop this harmonized approach for these common categories of materials. So the diagram in the middle of the screen is meant to show the perspective of both the single-use technology supplier as well as the drug maker, the license holder, CDMO below. So we can see in the teal diagram the cradle-to-gate, as we previously described, going from raw materials, which are often polymers, resins, solvents, reagents. They're transformed in their manufacturing, they're packaged, and oftentimes are pre-sterilized, and we can treat that as the product gate, where the use phase is up to the discretion of the license holder, so that the product is distributed, used, and will eventually reach the end of life. So we see that in the license holder diagram for the manufacture of drug substances and drug products. These consumable materials are consumed in that cradle-to-gate process. So who are some of the key stakeholders that we've identified through the gap analysis and through this work? We see actually upstream of the consumables and single-use technology suppliers, we have the chemical sector, and they manufacture many of the chemicals, reagents, and polymer and plastic resins that are used for these consumable products. Together for sustainability. They have developed their own PCF framework, which is well adopted in the industry, and is a really nice example for us to base our work on. We also have the Partnership for Carbon Transparency, or PACT, and PACT has come together to develop some of these guiding documents on how to develop a product carbon footprint framework. So Together for Sustainability did use them. And there's a lot of great resources available through PACT that we're also using in the development of our work. And a stakeholder that would benefit from this PCF framework is the Pharma LCA Consortium, which is a mix of license holders and CDMOs that have come together to improve the sustainability and environmental impact quantification of drug product manufacturing. A piece of work they're working on now is with the British Standards Institute for the development of the PAS 2090 standard. And what this will do is define the product category rules that dictate how LCA is carried out for drug products going to the healthcare systems. And that leaves us with our final stakeholder, which are those healthcare systems, which have their own decarbonization goals and are putting pressure and pulling on these drug makers to lower their footprint as well, and to be able to quantify their footprint. So we see the PCF work that we're doing in BioPhorum as supporting and building on many of the other stakeholder work that's happened already. And we'll summarize that in this this slide. Like I mentioned, we have Together for Sustainability for the chemical sector. They've developed their own product carbon footprint guideline covering chemicals, which are supplied today into the bioprocessing system. And then we have the BioPhorum product carbon footprint for single-use technologies and consumables. And this is covering those high volume product categories that go to the drug makers themselves. We have Pharma LCA Consortium with the PASS 2090 that's being developed for LCA. And then finally, the payers, the healthcare systems who are setting these scope 3 decarbonization goals and roadmaps. So all this data builds up to support those initiatives. So we've talked about a lot about how this is going to happen, but now let's talk about the benefits that we can expect from having this framework. And really, it's a two-way street. The benefits not only for the drug makers, the license holders, and CDMOs, it's also going to be for the suppliers. And we can break this down into the cradle-to-gate as well as the cradle-to-grave scope. From a cradle-to-gate standpoint, we're filling gaps in our modeling assumptions, so cutoff and allocation rules, data quality requirements. We're also connecting to those existing standards. So we've mentioned TFS. The NHS also has their requirements, and we can be cognizant of that as we develop this framework. And we can ensure that the different companies that represent these SUT suppliers are meeting our customer expectations for product level sustainability data. For license holders and CDMOs in this cradle-to-gate scope, it's really improving their scope 3 accounting, specifically for categories 1 and 2. It delivers more representative and accurate product carbon footprint than maybe before when they were making those assumptions. And again, it's improving the consistency for them and their quantification. In cradle-to-grave for suppliers, this is a learning opportunity for us. We can improve the end-of-life and use phase scenarios. There's not been a great amount of data and clarity on these points, so this is a chance to learn from our customers about how those products are used. And this is very relevant for our own scope 3 accounting in categories 11 and 12. So the use of our products and the end-of-life treatment of our products. For license holders and CDMOs, again, it's increasing the consistency and the provided data from their suppliers, improves their accounting assumptions for any downstream activities. And if there were ever a need to compare between materials, between products, using PCF can improve that granularity of detail. So those are all benefits that we see with this program. And with that, I'm gonna hand it back to Becky to talk about what we have left to do and some of the resources that you can find.
Thanks, Robert. That's great. So what's next then for this framework? So as Robert mentioned briefly, the team have been focused on a gap analysis, looking at the existing guidelines and methodologies, and identifying where there are gaps that they can fill with recommendations specific to this industry. So their next role is to incorporate the gap analysis recommendations into the framework, and then to begin to test the framework and pilot the framework together, which will help to refine the framework and showcase its value and encourage wider adoption of the framework. The team have acknowledged this is going to be an iterative approach, and there are also changes to the landscape that they will need to be aware of as the framework develops closer towards publication. So, for example, the recent announcement of the partnership between ISO and GHG protocol is certainly something that the team will need to remain aware of, and the evolving standards that might directly impact methodologies, data requirements, and reporting expectations for product level carbon footprints. So I think to summarise, the harmonized PCF framework is designed to unlock the value chain greenhouse gas emissions transparency, to improve data quality and support the sector's transition to a low carbon future. The aim is to publish the framework in the first half of 2026. And hopefully that will allow the industry to achieve that true transparency and to meet those regulatory requirements and drive real impactful change. We are going to leave you with some additional resources that may be useful. The industry position statement and supporting webinar that the Product Carbon Footprint Working Group previously published. So please do scan the QR code and take the time to review those additional resources and background. And of course, importantly, to reach out with any questions that you might have, should you either want to get involved in the collaboration or to ask questions or clarify anything that's been shared in today's video. I think all that remains then is for me to thank Robert for his input into today's presentation, and we'll end there. Thanks very much.